You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. What a lovely day we're having. It's a Friday, it's a football Friday. Just came off of Thursday night football, the Falcons and the Buccaneers. The Falcons beat the Buccaneers very badly. Very, very badly on a nationally televised game. Possibly their best game of the season. The defense of the Buccaneers not exactly preventing that from happening. Everybody in the NFL had found some kind of way to double cover Julio Jones and just kind of not eliminate him from games, really. No, eliminate him from games. That's the words I'm looking for. They kind of eliminated him. I mean, you double cover Julio and just say, let the rest of the guys beat us. And to Matt Ryan's eternal credit, he's been finding the other guys, right? He's been finding Mohamed Sanu and the tight end's name that I never remember ever, right? Devontae Freeman out in the flat. They've been finding these guys. So it's not like this tactic has necessarily been working for everybody else in the league. But you know what? We're not going to let Julio Jones beat us. And I think that's a fair game plan. You just contain the best guy and just hope for the best, right? The Falcons do have 3 losses this season. They are 6-3. So it's not like it never works, right? Granted that, it should be 7-2. Let's be honest what happened in Seattle over there. But regardless, it can work. And there was a time where, it looked like the Falcons were coming back down to earth a little bit, and it was working. But here is the major issue with that plan. Is if you are not good in the secondary, you cannot double cover Julio Jones. And you saw it with Tampa Bay. There was a lot of single coverage that Julio just completely devoured, but there was also some plays where there was just miscommunication, and Julio beat him. I mean, you can't have that against a guy that physically gifted. And this is why Tampa Bay is where they are, because they have those snafus, and they're not as strong defensively as they ought to be. And the only way to really beat the Falcons is to grind out some kind of win against them. It really is. And I mean, not the only way, but it is the most efficient way, because the Falcons have looked at what it is that the Patriots have done, and they've looked at the blueprint of what it is that the Bengals have done. And you got a guy like Kyle Shanahan, who's definitely for years been pulling for both systems. And it's the best of those things for them. The quick, short passes, and then when I have the opportunity to get you deep, I'm going to punish you. And it does help that Matt Ryan is younger than Tom Brady and therefore able to throw those deeper passes with much more ease. I mean, when Tom throws deep passes, it looks like a struggle these days, right? Which is crazy to think, because Tom Brady is playing MVP caliber football right now. And still, when I watch him make those deep throws, it's not the Tom Brady of 3 or 4 years ago. This guy is struggling a little bit. So you have what it is that the Patriots are doing offensively if you're the Falcons, but you've got a little bit more because your quarterback's younger. He's able to make the deep throws that really punish the defense for coming in close. And then defensively, Dan Quinn with another season able to sprinkle some more talent into that defense to play the style that he wants to play. Because I heard this as a criticism of the Falcons hiring Dan Quinn. Was Dan Quinn, oh, he was the defensive coordinator up in Seattle. He's coming down to Atlanta. And you know what's in Atlanta? Not Richard Sherman. Okay. You know what's in Atlanta? Not Brandon Browner. All right. I mean, you're not wrong. He left a much better defense. But given time, he's going to be able to get the players in his system that he wants. And when that happens, this is a very solid defense. They forced a number of turnovers. They made Jameis Winston look lost and confused. And Jameis Winston hasn't had a great season, but he hasn't looked like lost and confused. He just looks like a second-year quarterback. He looks like a guy that's young, which is a little bit of a regression for him because that rookie season was so fresh. That rookie season was so good that for Jameis Winston to look his age, it does feel like kind of a step backwards. It feels like a step in the wrong direction. But be that as it may, the Atlanta Falcons add one more win to the win column, and they are in the driver's seat right now in the NFC South, an NFC South that is surprisingly fun to watch. Like, the Saints are going to give you a great game every week. They don't play any defense. That's still a fact, but they're going to give you a great game every single week. And the Falcons are playing pretty fantastic football, I have to say. I mean, the Bucs are the Bucs. They're going to need to rebuild for a while. It's going to be a minute for them. And the Panthers are the best worst team in the league. The Panthers are, because they have Cam Newton, always going to be in games. But the Panthers are, because they don't have anybody else, probably not winning those games. They need to address that entire secondary. Good Lord. It is horrid. They need to address that whole thing from top to bottom, because you've got rookies everywhere and it looks like it. And it should never look like it. And that's what happens when your GM gets a little bit cocky. When your GM starts thinking he can do whatever he wants with whoever is on the field. Yeah, no, I could get a bunch of rookies and we'll put this together, and as a chemistry experiment, it'll work out. And then it completely backfires, blows up in his face. It doesn't work out. And you had Josh Norman, who's playing pretty well for the Redskins. It's not perfect, but he's playing pretty well. You had guys, and you let them walk. And I understand you can't afford it. And there is a hard cap in the NFL, but I don't know. If you are a team on the verge of a Super Bowl, like you got to a Super Bowl, if you are a team on the verge, whatever penalty there is for going over the salary cap, why wouldn't you just pay it? Like, I can understand if you're not the richest owner, why you wouldn't just want to pay it. But some of these owners are really, you're billionaires. Why wouldn't you just pay it? You do realize that winning a Super Bowl financially is like one of the greatest things that can happen to you. Why wouldn't you just pay for it? Like, that I do not follow. That, and in basketball, where it's a soft salary cap and you've got the luxury tax, why not just pay the tax? If your team is a championship caliber team and you're only a piece or two away, why are you lowballing these guys? Pay them, get your ring, print the money that comes with getting your ring. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. All the good social media. You get to see what we look like inside the studio if you feel so inclined. It's just very America in here. Just very America in here. That's all. If you want to, I'm not going to pressure you or anything like that. That is a way that you could reach us. You could also check us out on our Facebook page, Noogaradio.com. We stream all of our shows live from Facebook. We're the only radio station that does that. We are also 24/7 on our website, Noogaradio.com. That is Nooga radio.com. And, of course, the TuneIn Radio app, which you can find in whatever app store you use. Apple, Google, TuneIn Radio app. Download it. Give us a favorite in the app. If you search Hot News Talk Radio, press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. That's Hot News Talk Radio in the TuneIn Radio app. Listen like you mean it. I want to get to a little bit of NBA news really quickly before we go through the Football Friday coming up in the second half of the show, because we have a lot of SEC football. Like, from November on is when this stuff truly, honestly gets really, really interesting. Like, it's hard to make Alabama, and I don't even remember who they played earlier in the season, like a truly interesting thing. You are welcome to try, and I did. And, it was interesting to talk about when it looked like, okay, maybe Alabama's just going to take a little bit of time to figure this out. And then they do that thing where they come back against Ole Miss, and that was the last time. That was the last time SEC football was truly, truly interesting earlier this season. That when Tennessee was winning. And now look what we've got. We've got Alabama and LSU coming up around the corner. But before we get to that stuff, let me just indulge myself a little bit and talk some NBA, because the Warriors and the Thunder played basketball against each other last night, and the Warriors smoked the Thunder in a way that I did not think was going to go down quite like that. They beat them bad. What they like to call in my hometown a good old-fashioned butt whooping. Just smoked them. And Kevin Durant was the ringleader. 39 points, 29 points in the first half, just went insane. And if you're a person that does not like the whole concept of the basketball super team, because you know me, I don't have any problem with it whatsoever. I like it when great teams play each other. Now, I get mad because my team is the Wizards, my GM is an idiot, and nobody wants to go to Washington. So basically, we're going to waste the entire career of John Wall. That being said, otherwise, outside of my own personal melancholy and misery and rage and fury at that, I can sit down and appreciate really good basketball. I don't mind blowouts if the blowouts come as a result of really good basketball. And what happened last night was the result of really good basketball. And the fact that the Warriors have guys, they can choose who wants to take over the game. Most people see that as a hindrance. Like when the game is on the line, who's going to shoot it? There's a lot of scorers and only one ball. Sure, yeah, that's one downside. The other upside of that, though, is pick one. You really can't lose. In Portland the other night was Steph's night. Steph took that third quarter and made it his. Stamped Curry on it and sent it to America. Yesterday, Kevin Durant and the Thunder, the Warriors, this is going to take some getting used to, but Kevin Durant and the Warriors, they get a little started slow. You know, they're not quite on top of everything just yet. They're chugging along. And here comes Jeremy Grant of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who is a good young player, possibly capable of making that leap to be a really good basketball player over the course of his entire career. But to be clear, no superstar here. Jeremy Grant dunks on Kevin Durant to put the Thunder up by 10 in the first quarter. And Jeremy Grant dunks on Kevin Durant and yells in his face, flexing and everything else. And you never, ever, 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 ever do that to a superstar. Never. You know the old phrase, you don't tug on Superman's cape. Because if Superman were to ever turn around and just like backhand you, you would be done. That. Don't ever do that to a superstar. Who on earth is Jeremy Grant? Like, I followed him a little bit in college. He's going to be drafted. So I only happen to know about Jeremy Grant on accident. That the basketball team that I root for should have drafted that guy. I believe they did draft him and then trade him for money in a move that is so Wizards, it really just hurts my heart. But I only know about this guy on accident. Were it not for that, I'd have no idea who Jeremy Grant was. No clue. None whatsoever. Who is Jeremy Grant dunking on Kevin Durant? And Kevin Durant went off. He went off. And I think that there's this idea that we've always had about Kevin Durant. He's not the guy to take over. You watch the Oklahoma City games, you always look at the end of those games, it was Russell taking over. It's not Kevin Durant taking over. Kevin Durant's passive. Kevin Durant's not mean enough. Kevin Durant's not nasty enough. Yeah, well, go ahead and put those to bed right now, because Kevin Durant was talking all the smack on the floor. Kevin Durant turned his game up to another level. He was firing threes from outside the gym. He was dunking on people. He had a play with 5 seconds left to go in the third quarter where he crossed up the entire Thunder defense on his way to his gigantic spider-legged Euro step that he does to finish in the lane just as time was expiring. Like, you just have these moments that you're just like, oh, no. Kevin Durant's actually a really tough guy to defend. And if you're the person that didn't want to see the Warriors running around scorching the entire league, this game was probably your waking nightmare. They're going to scorch the whole NBA. And if you've got a problem with that, I need to know. I need to know exactly what your problem is. Because you've been dealing with this for a while. For instance, LeBron, he goes to an NBA Finals. They lose. They go back the next year. LeBron wins in the finals. We instantly forgive him. We forgive him. Like, people don't ever bring up the fact that LeBron James did this first. And nobody ever brings up the fact that LeBron James went down to Miami with 2 top 10 players in his draft class. The other 2. Nobody brings that stuff up anymore. Because when you talk about the legacy of LeBron James, you know what you see? 3 rings. You start to forget about where the other 2 came from. Kevin Durant, if he ever wins a title with Golden State, you know what you're going to see? Rings. Like, your big problem is that he just went there. So basically, whether or not a team wins a title and how good a player is whether or not he decides to stay on the team that was constructed for him. Because say the Thunder never trade James Harden, which we can all acknowledge was a gigantic mistake and they probably should never have done that, right? Say they keep James Harden and they have Russell Westbrook and they have Kevin Durant on that team. And those guys continue to grow together. How do you argue that that team, if they were ever able to get a better coach, isn't arguably as offensively prolific as the one in Golden State? Because all those guys can shoot, all those guys can attack the basket. The way that they could be capable of moving the ball would be ridiculous. Your problem is that Kevin Durant went to the Warriors. If Kevin Durant had stayed with the Thunder and say they had that nucleus of Harden and Westbrook and Durant, that would be a horrifyingly unfair team to have. The problem is that the GM is really good and put together a really good team. How is that better? Growing with your team. How does that make you a better or worse player in terms of legacy? How does that make you a better or worse champion? Right? Because, like, we talk about guys going up the mountain. The mountain is the constant analogy of sports that we all like. Jordan had to go up the mountain that was the Pistons. The Pistons had to go up the mountain that was the Celtics. The Celtics had to go up the mountain that was the Lakers. And you just have people going over mountains. And that is the analogy that we like. So we don't like it when someone is like, you know what? I don't need to climb up this mountain. Get me on a helicopter. I don't like that. That's the problem there. That it ruins our beautiful analogy of what it is that sports are supposed to look like and be like, which is also why we have that huge problem with Jalen Hurd transfer, is that Jalen Hurd is not climbing up the mountain with Tennessee. Because I've heard so many people say, had he transferred at the end of the season, they wouldn't have a problem with it, which is entirely untrue, of course. I mean, you would have a problem with it. But no, if Jalen Hurd transferred at the end of the season, you wouldn't have a problem with it. Then what's your problem with Kevin Durant? Because he didn't demand a trade in the middle of the season like Carmelo Anthony. He didn't demand a trade mid-season like a ton of other guys. He waited till his contract was done. He was in Oklahoma City for the first 3 years of his contract. He signed that 4-year extension. He was there for 7 years. And then he decided to leave because his contract was up at the end of the season. Everybody's up in arms because of where he chose to go. So no, you don't have a problem. Or your problem is with the fact that he chose to leave. And it's shading entirely how you choose to watch Warriors basketball and the context with which you're watching it. Because if that team came together organically, like a GM was able to somehow manipulate a trade to draft all of those guys together, you would see all of those guys as greats, even though the team is equally as loaded. And ain't that just a little bit ridiculous? You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose, Football Friday. We're going to go around the matchups in the SEC. Who you got? Next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
A $500 gift card. $500? What? That's right, Bunky. A $500 gift card from a store of your choice. The agents at Exit Realty Scenic City are confident they can sell your house. They can do it in 99 days or less. If your listing proves a slowpoke, they will give you a $500 gift card. No one works harder for you than agents at Exit Realty Scenic City. Licensed in Tennessee and Georgia. Exit sells quickly all types of commercial and residential properties and vacant land. Looking for a dream home, or maybe you're just a first-time home buyer? Let an agent get you started today on your house search. If you're a real estate agent looking for a change, see what Exit can do for you. Training, technology, branding, culture, and financial freedom. Again, Exit Realty Scenic City. Call 423-551-EXIT to learn more. Call 423-551-EXIT and learn more. Terms and restrictions may apply.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis has the cash when you sell gold, silver, diamonds, rings, and jewelry. Sell Rick your precious metals today and lock in your price. Hey, Rick Davis will trade your cash for shiny, brilliant, and heavy gold. Gold cheaper now by $100 an ounce. Join the Rick Davis Silver Bonanza too. Prices so low, the Lone Ranger is bound to gallop in, Kimosabe.
Hey-ho, silver, away!
The markets are changing, so buy now. Cash, 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 and more cash for your silver and gold, gold, gold. Rick Davis, 5301 Brainerd Road. That's 5301 Brainerd Road. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Oh, and cash, cash, cash. You know where it is.
Hey-ho, silver, away!
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
Expect clear skies to continue through your nighttime, cooling down overnight, lows into the mid-40s. For your weekend, looking great. Still dry, though, for the next several days, but comfortable through Sunday with afternoon highs into the lower to middle 70s and overnight lows closer to 40. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world-famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, Ringgold, and now 5203 Brainerd Road. That's Guthrie's. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, with your chance to win $124 in cash and $124 in food every week with the Hot News Talk Radio 1,
2, 3, NASCAR contest.
Hot News Talk 1240.
All you have to do is guess who's going to be first, second, and third place in the upcoming NASCAR Sprint Cup race. If you guess it, you'll hear your name live Monday morning at 11:30. Then call AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio to win. Enter your guess right now at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road, Chattanooga.
Diesel Off-Road Technology Solid Daisy for your four-wheel drive and truck needs. Stuff and upholstery with premium rubber foam. Amigos Mexican Restaurant next to Staples and Hickson. Drink specials during the race. Cell Surgeon, the Broken Screen Doc.
And Shooter's Supply, 4824 Hickson Pike in Hickson.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Enter your guesses now and listen to the race live to win $124 in cash and $124 in food from Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
I love NASCAR.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Colonial Pipeline is now saying repairs could be made to the exploded line as soon as Sunday afternoon. That's the goal that's been set by the company. That gas line exploded, causing the price of gas to shoot up 10 cents during the week. Right now, the low price in Hickson is $1.82. On the higher end, $1.87. $1.92 is the average price. That's still lower than the national average. On November the 17th, the Hamilton County School Board is going to consider naming Superintendent Kirk Kelly as the permanent superintendent of schools in Hamilton County. He was appointed as the interim after Rick Smith left following the Ottawa rape case. The school board appears to not be ruling out the option of using a search firm to find an outside source for superintendent of schools in Hamilton County. We here at Hot News Talk Radio want to remind you daylight savings time ends 2 a.m. on Sunday, so remember to turn your clocks back before you go to bed. Your smartphone should do that automatically. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Martin Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott Powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops a right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocks him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
The voice of NASCAR.
You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate each and every one of you. And it's a football Friday. Feels good. Feels pretty good, man. But we have, we've got quite a few games to get into here because we've got some big games coming up in the SEC. The big one, obviously, Alabama and LSU in Death Valley. And I basically have been picking against Alabama weekly. I haven't really been picking against them because I feel like the outcome of a lot of these games was pretty apparent. It was going to be Alabama. But I usually blueprint how it is that a team could beat Alabama if they were to beat Alabama, which obviously none of them did to this point. Okay. And surprisingly, the closest that we really got was Arkansas. So there's that. We had something there with A&M for 2.5 quarters exactly. And then it all fell to pieces. Just the whole darn thing. And so now LSU plays Alabama, possibly, of all the teams, the best shot that anybody's got at beating Alabama. Because they are, rather, the best defensive unit, really, that the Crimson Tide have played. And when you look at what Alabama or what LSU brings to the table offensively, it's pretty obvious that there's a mismatch problem. Defensively, LSU is okay. In terms of being able to stop Alabama, is it going to be easy? Of course not. That team has way too many weapons all over the place, options galore, But that being said, it's possible to slow that team down, right? Like LSU has stopped and slowed down great Alabama teams before. Their problem always was they never could score enough points to beat Alabama, right? Like, wasn't that always the issue with them? They just never could score enough points. This season, ever since the firing of one Les Miles, this team has been scoring points. They have not had any issue putting up points on the board. But they haven't played Alabama. Alabama, whose defense is among the best in tackles for loss. Alabama, whose defense can get to your quarterback with 4 pass rushers, which was the problem last year, which was why they were able to slow down Leonard Fournette. And a lot of people are looking at Leonard Fournette and going, well, Leonard Fournette, this is the game he needs to exercise his demons against Alabama. Leonard Fournette, why? Leonard Fournette needs to show that Alabama is not his kryptonite. And yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense. Alabama's whole defense is designed to destroy, and they only need 4 guys to do it. And they are so deep that it's overwhelming. Alabama's defense is the problem for Leonard Fournette. And Leonard Fournette, there is no way for him to counter this. When a team can get to your quarterback without bringing extra men, there's no second level for Leonard Fournette to get into. Okay? If Leonard Fournette passes the defensive line, he still has Alabama's entire defense back there. And there's just no way. Even Leonard Fournette is not beating all of those guys. Even him. Right? Like, it's not going down that way. Sorry to say it. Even Leonard Fournette is going to have problems against Alabama's defense, and it's shown. He hasn't had a whole lot of passing support. Now, this is the best that LSU has thrown the ball in about 4 years. So there's that. But I don't expect that to make such a gigantic difference unless they're going to start working Leonard Fournette in the passing game, which even then seems kind of ridiculous to think that that's going to be the deciding factor because, again, Alabama doesn't really ever have to blitz. When you've got talent that's superior, they never have to. You don't have to take the gambles and risks that normal teams have to take because you are Alabama. So, yeah, it's hard to outline a path to victory for LSU here, not because of anything that's wrong with LSU, but because of everything that's right with Alabama, and everything is right in Alabama. Everything. There's nothing wrong. This team rocks people, and they've played a tough schedule this year. You can't say that they've played anybody soft. They've played the best teams in both divisions and made them look bad. They played A&M. They played Tennessee. And I mean, sure, that doesn't seem like it means anything really now, but Tennessee was that school that you were just looking at, okay, this team's got a puncher's chance of doing something, because when you looked at some of their other victories, thrilling, and they could put points on the board in a hurry. Maybe the Vols can. No. No, man. Just not about to go down. So you saw the way that went. And I can't really imagine a scenario that doesn't entirely favor Alabama. Which to me, kind of an issue. Kind of a big issue here. In the way that people are grumpy about the Warriors and, they're stomping all over the league. I just want to see Alabama lose. And not because, look, Alabama's great and I just hate them because they're great. No. I think college football is at its best when we don't know who the best team is. It's a little bit obscure. There's some carnage, there's some wreckage, and then suddenly someone just punches through and you're like, no, it was them. Like that year that Ohio State won the national title, and they won 3 different games with 3 different quarterbacks. And we were like, oh, no Braxton Miller. Can Ohio State win with JT Barrett? Oh, they can. Oh, no JT Barrett. Can Ohio State win with Cardell Jones? Oh, they can. That was great that year. I liked that year of college football. This year, if Alabama goes completely undefeated and will probably traipse through the entire college football playoff undefeated as well, I mean, sure, there is a level of excitement where a team is just punching through everybody, and great football is great football. So you can't deny that that's not what you're seeing. But the challenge would be cool. You know what I mean? A little bit of struggle never hurt anybody. In terms of what my personal preference is to watch, yeah, little bit of struggle. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. However, one cannot argue with this fact. If Ed Orgeron is able to beat Alabama, do you not name him the head coach at the end of the season? Because I think you have to. That's the beast that Les Miles wasn't really able to slay while he was at LSU. He beat him a couple of times, right? First off, the first time he played Nick Saban with Nick Saban's own players. The first time he got that win. We just never got Les Miles ever really knocking on the door of taking out Alabama. When you consider that both of those 2 schools were considered the class of the conference year in and year out, it's hard to understand and wrap your mind around how it is that LSU never really took out Alabama, especially when you consider how close so many of those games were. If Ed Orgeron slays this dragon, don't you have to name him head coach? I think you have to. Because this is the same roster that Les Miles had. And look what he did with it. Think about that. He changed the quarterback. You got Leonard Fournette back from injury, but Les Miles had Leonard Fournette in that Wisconsin game, and offensively, possibly one of the most hideous games I've ever watched in life. If he's able to do this with that, don't you have to? I think you'd have to. So LSU, Alabama, what is that, a 7 o'clock CBS Sports game? Nice, delightful Saturday primetime game. And then you've got also on the board Texas A&M versus Miss State. A&M only losses to Alabama. Miss State, 5 losses to lots of people. We don't have to really go down the list, but if you look at statistically who is leading the SEC in rushing, number 1 is Auburn, number 2 is Alabama, number 3 is Texas A&M. So suddenly, everything in the world is looking correct. Those are the 3 teams that ought to be leading the conference in rushing. Auburn, because they're Auburn. Alabama, because Jalen Hurts and because they're Alabama. And Texas A&M, because Trevor Knight has opened up their entire running game. So obviously, I think A&M is the pick there. A game that interests me, though, is Vandy and Auburn, because I'm not sure, and I have the same issue with LSU. I'm not sold on how good either of those schools are since they played each other, and Auburn won and LSU lost, and both of them have been on an upward trajectory ever since. I'm not sold on how good Auburn and LSU are because they haven't really played anybody since that game. They've played well, and you can't fault the guys for beating whoever's in front of them on the schedule, right? Like, because they choose these schedules forever ago. You can't blame the guy for beating whoever's in front of him. However, it does stand to reason just a little bit that Auburn and LSU might just be showing us some little bit of a magic trick here, that we're not actually sure how good these teams are. Right? Like, Auburn does look good. And it's not like Auburn wasn't struggling against bad teams early in the season as well. They were. But if Auburn is able to handle Vanderbilt the way they're supposed to on paper, then you would have to say, okay, well, Auburn is solid at least. Because I still don't think this proves that you're a good team. And certainly you're ranked 9 in the nation. I don't know that this proves that you're 9. It does prove, though, that you're not going to trip over your own feet and lose to a school like Vanderbilt, who, while defensively solid, cannot get out of their own way offensively. However, you get trapped in that 9-7 game, that 6-3 game with Vanderbilt, and I have no words for you. God have mercy on your soul. That's all on you. You did that to yourself. Right? Don't get trapped in that game with them. They like that game. Oh, the hideous, ugly one where we're just scoring off of special teams? Yeah, no, we like that one. Go ahead and give us that one. We like that. Yeah, Auburn could easily lose this game. I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility at all, but Auburn is playing some really good and almost inspired-looking football. They just haven't done it against anybody of true quality, so I'm at least interested in seeing how this is going to go over. Right? The other game of the weekend, that's a very important game, understated. I actually bumped into a couple of Georgia fans today, asked them how they were going to do against Kentucky. Georgia fan, pretty confident that Georgia's going to be able to beat Kentucky, as they should be. They are the better football team, but it is worth noting that Georgia struggled against everybody. It would be one thing if Georgia struggled against some teams, if Georgia struggled against defensive teams, if Georgia struggled against offensive teams, if Georgia struggled against a specific kind of team or just SEC teams. Georgia has struggled against FCS schools, against running quarterbacks, against passing quarterbacks, against soft defenses, against second half teams, first half teams. Georgia struggled against every single team that they have faced this year. And I'm not saying Kirby Smart's on the hot seat. Which, this sounds really bad, right? Because, like, it's like that whole Donald Trump thing where Donald Trump was like, I'm not saying Hillary should release her emails. I'm not saying that. But she might want to release her emails. I'm not saying it. She just should. But I'm not suggesting that Kirby Smart actually be on the hot seat. I don't think he is. He's fine. Right? Because I think ultimately he's going to be a good coach. But he's changed up everything since he's gotten there, which I know people don't like to see. People like to see the partial rebuild. Okay, we were winning about 10 games a year, 9-10 games a year. Don't blow the whole thing up. Just extend. You know, you don't want Kirby Smart to come in and destroy the whole house. The house was livable. We just wanted to extend the kitchen a little bit. The house was fine. But Kirby Smart showed up and said, look, if you want more than 10 wins a year, there's a completely different way that we have to do this. Right? So Kirby Smart blew everything up. And this is the team that they are right now. A lot of hope for the future, but that's what they've got. Kirby Smart came in with the wrecking ball and leveled your whole house. He knocked the whole thing flat. Mansion, and you wanted that mansion by extending the living room some. Yeah, maybe give us a patio. A grotto in the backyard. And Kirby Smart was like, nah, this is not how you get a mansion. You get a mansion by knocking the house over and building a mansion. So there's a little bit more pressure in the way that he's chosen to do this, of course, because if you knock the house over and build a hut, people are about to be real mad at you. So Kirby Smart, next season is the season where Kirby Smart going to need to start winning some of these games. Like if Georgia had gone 9-10 wins this season, he wouldn't actually need to win that many games next season. He wouldn't need to. He's going to have to start showing some form of growth in this next season and hopefully the season that follows after that. Or else he is in trouble. And it kind of starts with this game. Because against Kentucky, look, first off, you have a team that is built for shootouts. Okay? You've got Isaiah McKenzie. He's a very fast receiver. Like, rip the top off the defense kind of fast. You've got Jacob Eason, who's a strong-armed quarterback. You've got a good, solid stable of running backs, albeit they're all dinged up in their own way. And you've got a Kentucky team that has no interest in playing defense whatsoever. None. Like, all of these ingredients, you just ought to blow Kentucky out the gym. You've beaten them 6 times in a row. Go ahead and beat them again. This is a game that you've got to consistently beat some kind of opponent. Like, Georgia doesn't have any identity, which is crazy when you think about all the talent that's on the team. There's no identity. You can't say that Georgia's really great at defense, but you can't say they're bad at defense. You can't say offensively they're powerful. You can say they're offensively capable. We've seen their ceiling a few times, but we've also seen their floor more times than we'd like to see. What is Georgia? What are they going to be when they're good? What are they going to look like? We don't know. And when you lose to a school like Vanderbilt, that doesn't really say that you're bad, because way too many teams have gone into the grinder with Vanderbilt and come out of that one on the wrong side. And you look back and went, what happened? Oh, yeah, they played defense and we didn't score. This is why Tennessee better look out. But Vandy is a school that can test you. Georgia failed that test. Kentucky is also a school that can test you, but in a completely different way. If you're not disciplined defensively, if you do not stop the big play from them defensively, they will score points on you all night long. And you don't want to be caught in that with Kentucky. I promise. It's not a good feeling. And Georgia kind of got caught in a shootout to start the season with North Carolina, which is why I think that they should be able to win this game, because North Carolina and Kentucky are similar teams in terms of North Carolina is really not interested in playing defense ever, and they can score lots of points. That's what makes them a solid ACC school. That's what makes them solid for that league, is they can score lots of points because they're not stopping you. They're a sieve. Kentucky too. So you really ought to beat them. Like, this is really, you're playing a team that you started the season. The only convincing win that Georgia had this season was week 1, North Carolina. So the next convincing win that Georgia ought to have this season is week 10, Kentucky. You've got to have it. Or Kirby Smart, we're going to start to hear the grumbling. And I'm not saying, again, that he's on the hot seat necessarily. The guy's fine. He knocked over the house, and nobody is happy that he knocked over the house. Whether or not Kirby Smart keeps his job is entirely based around the fact of whatever it is that he chooses to build next. If he builds a mansion like everyone wants him to, he's good. If he builds you a hut, he's in trouble. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Another game, SEC game, Florida, Arkansas. I love all this conference play, by the way, making me so happy. Florida and Arkansas. Arkansas should be the team that is third in rushing in the SEC, because they're always there. Year in and year out, what do you know about the Razorbacks? They run the football. Yeah, this year they throw. And that's such a weird thing to see with the Brett Bielema team, right? This year they pass the ball. How is that possible? Like, they just completely 180 into a different team offensively. They completely pass the ball now. And what's more is they're very good at it. And they're going to test Florida, because Florida's defense is fantastic. It's great. I don't think anybody can really dispute what it is that they've got going on over there. They're playing freshmen. They're playing sophomores, and they are dominating. They are rocking people to the core. You can't dispute what's going on over there in Florida. But I will remind you that Austin Allen threw up 400 yards on Alabama. It still was in a loss, but he threw up 400 yards on Bama. And Florida's defense is pretty great. Bama's defense might be the best defense we've ever seen. What makes you think that Austin Allen ain't throwing up more yards on you? Florida, number 11. Florida wants to win the SEC East. They officially have the inside track because Tennessee gave it to them. What can they do with it? I don't know. This is their first test. The rest of their schedule is hard, by the way. Florida is not cakewalking through this. Arkansas will not be a cakewalk for them. Arkansas is perfectly capable of upsetting them because of the amount of points that team is capable of putting up and the way that they do it. That Arkansas used to shoot themselves in the foot by the only way that they could score was run. So by running, they were able to put up points, but they were also using a lot of clock. So if they ever got behind, they really couldn't do anything about it. Yeah, no. This Arkansas team plays very well from behind, and they can put up points very quickly. And Austin Allen is the truth. His arm is strong, and he is very accurate. I'm a big fan of that guy. And Florida's defense is going to see a little bit of a test here because we know that Florida is not winning a shootout. If the defense cannot hold and keep Austin Allen and the Razorbacks out of the end zone, it's about to be a long, long day for Jim McElwain. You've been listening to Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me this week. Make sure to remember it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch. I'll see you in 72 hours, but you just stick around. Alex Jones, why, he's next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News